So these perspectives, and many other perspectives that I would use to kind of get over that anger that I was feeling in the morning, it helped. And
Temporarily.
It helps reframe the day. But when I talked to you about it, I was at a point where reframing was not working. It was working, but it was working less and less.
You can't keep putting Band-Aids on the wound.
Right. And I feel like I'd wake up in the morning, I'd be angry, I'd put a Band-Aid on it, and then like the Band-Aids start to come off, and then I'd put like another Band-Aid on it.
Right.
And then by the end of the day, I just got these layers of Band-Aids.
So continue that metaphor. You have to bandage the wound before you can get to the hospital, so to speak.
Sure.
And these perspective shifts are the temporary bandage to help out. But let's talk about the long-term perspective shift.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, long story short, man, I got a hold of a therapist, a referral through our physician, Dr. Ryan Green. And dude, it's funny, like 1 hour of therapy, like how it really helped me reframe the way I looked at the relationship. So up until this point, it was, I don't talk a lot about my upbringing with Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't talk about Jehovah's Witnesses too much because I really want to respect people's beliefs and I really want to respect people's values. And I try to not talk about that organization, the Watchtower and Tract Society. I try to not talk about that in a negative light because it's just like any other religion in the sense that it has, a group of people with a set belief of dogmatics. Or am I repeating myself there? But they have these.
There's an ideology.
Yeah, there's an ideology, and it works for my dad, and that's great. But I always looked at, the reason why I'm prefacing it is because I always looked at the problem with my dad and I was this society. And I would always tell myself, man, if it wasn't for the Watchtower and Tract Society, if it wasn't for their interpretation of the Bible, then my dad and I would have a really, really great relationship. And that is where I was getting stuck for two reasons. One, I don't want to look at any organization and feel anger or resentment.
Yeah.
And plus, that doesn't feel right to me anyway, to like sit there and blame an organization. Oh, the organization is making my dad do this.
Right.
Like that just doesn't feel right to me. So talking this through with the therapist, yeah, it was great, man. He just helped me to kind of realize that, yeah, man, like my dad, he is who he is.
Right.
And like the religion that he is in, he uses that as a tool to be a bad dad.
He's a bad dad who uses the religion to bludgeon you. But if it weren't for the religion,
he would find something else to bludgeon me with. And well, the thing too is like, the therapist was like, there are other people in this religion that are in similar circumstances to what you and your father are in, right? And he's like, and they're still able to maintain decent relationships with their kids, right? And I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like the organization is not the problem. It is a symptom of who my dad really is,
right?
If that makes any sense.
He's looking for the problem,
right? So yeah. Long story short, it feels like it's just having that 1 hour conversation. That was on Monday, so today's Thursday. This was just 4 days ago. I haven't woken up angry one time. I mean, I do wake up and like it hurts, and I'm like, God, I wish like I could just call my dad and be like, Hey, love you, man. How's it going? When are we going on that scuba diving trip?
Yeah.
But like I, will wake up and like have those random thoughts. But instead of me getting angry, because I used to just be like, oh, if he would just see how misled he is, and it's like, I don't have that anymore because it's not about him being misled.
Right.
It's just about him being a bad dad. I'm like, that's okay, man. Like it's funny because I've always,
well, it's okay because you're not entitled to a good dad.
Yeah. And I always looked at like the relationship with my mother back in the 8th grade. When just shit hit the fan with that side of my family, I got blamed.
Yeah.
As in junior high, I got blamed for a lot of what happened, and I was able to in junior high look at the relationship with my mom and be like, you know what? I don't know why I'm being blamed for this stuff right now. I don't know why any of this is my fault. In fact, it's not my fault, and it turns out that my mom's perspective is just wrong, and she's just not able to be a good parent right now. And I was able to move on. And it's like, I don't know why it took me till 37 years old to realize that with my dad, but it was through this therapy session that totally helped me to just accept that, really.
Yeah.
But I guess the other thing to get out of this whole experience, and the reason why I'm sharing it, is because if there's someone out there who is waking up with some kind of pain or some kind of angst on a regular basis, the temporary Band-Aids will work well temporarily. Mm-hmm. It is so important to go get the help that you need, and it's not like our conversations help. Mm-hmm. In fact, when people reach out to me for mentoring, mm-hmm. a lot of the times they will tell me, "Hey Ryan, I know I have a lot of good friends to talk to and family to talk to, but I know what your personality is like. I respect your opinion and your advice, so I just want to get an unbiased opinion on a matter,
right?
So I could, with someone that I respect." Yeah. And it was the same thing with a therapist. It's like, I want to, yeah. The other thing, I wanted to talk to someone who I respected, and he was a great recommendation from Dr. Ryan Green, who like really talked him up. But the other thing too is like, I'm thinking, all right, Ryan, I have got the stereotypical like Freud mommy and daddy issues. So why don't I go and do the stereotypical treatment for it?
Right.
And it turns out like it's a stereotype for a reason.
Yeah. And it was helpful. And guess what? If it wasn't helpful, you wasted an hour of your life and a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And at least you're one step closer to figuring out what the long-term perspective shift is. So the reason I bring these two different solutions up is getting the short-term perspective shift is important as long as you're willing to do something about it long-term as well. And so finding what that change is for you. It could be as simple as reframing the idea that like it's not a bad religion necessarily, it's a bad parent.
It was reframing the way I looked at my dad. Like, instead of using something else to blame for my dad and I's relationship, mm-hmm. being able to look at my dad and just be like, dude, it has nothing to do with religion. This has nothing to do with the Watchtower and Tract Society. This has everything to do with you as a person. Yeah,
because if it weren't for religion, he would use geography or money or any other excuse to beat you over the head with that, right? Any other sort of resource or ideology that it was useful in, because the conversation you and I had, like even when you were growing up and you were being a good Jehovah's Witness.
Going door to door on a regular basis, making it to every single meeting, which is just another term for going to church. And dude, like when I was there, I think they cut it back. But when I was there, it was like 3 days a week, going for an hour or 2 hours. I was doing everything I was supposed to do.
And even then he found fault?
Still found a way.
How so?
To tell, because I was working for him at the time. Mm-hmm. So there's always, riding me at work with every little thing that he could find. Okay. Just insert random
not in a wallpaper.
Way. No, not in a loving way.
Not in a way that helps you grow.
Yeah. Any random excuse you could think of in a wallpaper and painting business to like criticize someone, like he was just right on top of it. And I understand it because he is raising his standards for me, mm-hmm. and I understand that he's going to try and get me to get to those standards.
Yeah.
But to your point, the standards that he's trying to get me to now, I was already there.
Right. And
he still was a bad dad. And I think about my sister, it's the same thing. I mean, she was doing, it's like my dad would be like, okay, you need to my sister, you need to go door to door more. So then she would. And then he'd be like, okay, that's great. You're doing good, but you need to go even more now. So then she upped her hours to, 30 hours a month or 40 hours. I forget what the time frame is that they require to they call it, I'm not going to get into the jargon, but my point is that, so then, she'd go out door to door more. And then my dad would be like, that's great. Now, make sure that you are dating someone when she got to the age to date. Make sure you're dating someone that is in the Watchtower and Tract Society. So then she would. Great. She found someone who was in the Watchtower and Tract Society. Well, it turns out he wasn't enough of a person for her to date because he wasn't an elder in the church, or he was. So there was always this standard, mm-hmm. that my dad would have. We meet it, and then he raises it. And that is a symptom of him. That is not a symptom of anything else.
Which, by the way, is great if you are raising standards for a reason. That's what we should be doing.
Sure.
But when we have these arbitrary standards, they're not even standards anymore, it becomes an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
And it's always going to be the next thing that is out of reach. I'm always going to find something that is out of reach for you.
Yeah.
It's the, oh, you can dunk on a 13-foot rim? Here's 14
Here's
foot
13
rim.
and a half. Yeah, dude, it's always like raising that bar, but dude, it's totally okay to raise one's standards. It's okay for me to raise my standards. I'll raise my standards every day if I can, but I will never raise your standards for you. I will never go out of my way to make you feel bad because I've set a standard for you in my head and you're not there.
Yeah.
Like, you're my best friend, dude. Like, I will support you no matter what. Right. And if you need help, if you ask me for help with your standards that you set for yourself, great, I'll help you. But I'm not going to come to you and say, these are my standards and you're not living up to them and you should feel bad about it.
Man, that sounds like a whole lot of shitty relationships.
Yeah, dude.
A lot of shitty relationships. That's why they're shitty, is because we try to impose our standards, our beliefs, our resources, our desires, our and even our values onto other people.
Yeah.
And when we do that, not only are we, it's not setting the example, because that's not what your dad was doing. Was, I'm going to set the example for you. In fact, it was often the opposite.
Yeah.
It was is do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
And by doing that, by trying to impose my value, even if I'm living up to them, if I impose it on you, you're not. It's the thing that I always say is, people don't hate change, they hate being changed.
Right.
And because we all like certain change, like, oh, I got a promotion at work, or wow, we got a new podcast studio. That's a change. Like, those are changes that we eagerly embrace because we went after it, right? Yeah. Whereas the difference is if someone says, all right, guys, all right, the Minimalists, we're putting you in a new podcast studio. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Or you're getting a demotion at work or whatever. Like, in fact, I took a demotion at work once. Remember, I eliminated the job that I was in so I could go back into another job that was more ideal for me.
Yeah.
And that was great. But if someone were to force me into it, it's like being changed. We don't like being changed. And so trying to change someone is never going to work, at least not long term.
It's funny, man. I support people's values and beliefs as much as possible and go out of my way to not just support, but appreciate the differences in people's values and beliefs. But what I don't support is when it is affecting the well-being of other people.
Absolutely.
Like, that's where I will step up and be like, hey, you're insane.
Yeah.